Many Egyptologists believe that the pyramids provided final earthly protection to royalty during their transition from the material world to that of eternal peace. Dr. James Brashler heads the Institute of Antiquities and Christianity at Claremont College.
For the ancient Egyptian, death was simply a transition from one theater of existence or one arena of life to another arena, which they called the West. It was the land to which one went after existence in this life came to a conclusion. Death was simply the opening up of a new kind of life that seems to have been conceived of in terms of a paradise.
There was a panoply of gods to be pleased, and elaborate rituals had to be performed successfully before one could enter the Egyptian Garden of Eden. The common citizen did not possess such knowledge. Only the priests could guide people to life everlasting, and their special skills gave them an extraordinary hold over the lives of the Egyptians. Whether ancient Egyptians thought that they could defeat death itself through the mummification process is not known. Scientists have carefully examined the mummies of Egyptian royalty. Despite concerted efforts, researchers remain mystified by the methods utilized by the ancients to preserve the body. "3,000-year-old stone reliefs depicted the immense power wielded by the priest class in ancient Egypt. It was their responsibility to begin planning for a pharaoh's death as soon as he became king. At the time of Tutankhamun's coronation, the priests remained the single most powerful body within Egyptian society.
When Tutankhamun, a 9-year-old boy, came to the throne, the situation was ripe for change.
Gerald LaRue is a professor of religion at the University of Southern California.
Who worked with this malleable young man? Who helped to formulate his ideas? We don't know. Perhaps the great court advisor, Ai, was involved in this. Perhaps there were priests from Thebes who reached him. His predecessor, Akhenaten, had moved away from the traditional religions of ancient Egypt. Egypt had enjoyed the freedom of worship of many gods in many different forms. But Akhenaten had made a change. He had moved from polytheism to monotheism, the emphasis on one god in one form.
Following the death of Akhenaten, it is generally accepted that his belief in one god disappeared. The priests had discouraged its acceptance by the general populace because it threatened their position of power. But some scholars theorize that small groups clung to monotheism and quite possibly spread the idea across the desert. There was no way that the young child Tut could understand the religious turmoil which he had entered. The affairs of state unquestionably rested with the priests. With a child pharaoh on the throne, it would be easy for them to completely reinstate the old religion. Meanwhile, Tut wrestled with the normal problems of growing into manhood. Drawings made during Tutankhamun's reign often depict him with his young bride, the daughter of his predecessor Akhenaten and Nefertiti. Tut married his young bride when she was 12 and he only 9. Tut must have spent many carefree hours in the royal gardens, involved with the whimsical delights that only young lovers can devise. As Tut and his wife Ankensenpaten grew up together, they seem to have possessed a great love for one another. A poem read to Tut by his bride has survived 3,000 years.
My love to thee is like the acorn which I have planted with flowers in the manner of sweet-smelling herbs. And in the acre is a pool, that in the cool of the north wind, it is a lovely place where I walk there. Your hand upon mine, my body satisfied, and my heart glad that our going together is as intoxicating as to hear thy voice. And my life depends upon hearing thee. Whenever I see thee, it is better to me than food and drink.
Tut's great appreciation for life and his intense love for Akensen-Paten would be cut short. He would not live to his 20th birthday.
Scholars are not at all certain what caused the death of Tutankhamun. The mummy itself was somewhat decomposed because of the excessive use of unguents and spices that the priests carried out, and therefore the physical evidence is ambiguous. Some who have investigated suggest then that the death of Tutankhamun probably came as a result of respiratory ailments such as tuberculosis or pneumonia.
Still others believe that his death may have been hastened by poison. I, the great court priest who was present when Tut was crowned, now watched over the young pharaoh. Whether he was a member of a possible conspiracy with other court priests to terminate Tut's life is not known. Tut was now 19, an adult. It is possible that the priests feared they could no longer control him, and he might return to the ways of Akhenaten. Perhaps they wished him dead, for his death, like his coronation, could serve them well. Their power over the religious direction of Egypt would continue. Following Tut's death, he was launched on a journey to afterlife. The priests left behind now made a pantheon of deities, the gods of Egypt. Bedouins still trek over the same plains where Moses fled more than 2,000 years ago to avoid persecution for his belief in one God. It is possible that Moses was influenced by those who had faithfully held to Akhenaten's belief in monotheism. Once Tut died, it can be assumed that the few believers who still remained faced the wrath of the priests. It is very likely that they became a highly committed nomadic group who tenaciously clung to their singular beliefs. Tut's death may have affected the entire sweep of Western thought and religion. Not even his priestly advisors could have envisioned such a dramatic place in history for their young king. The science of Egyptology is less than 100 years old. While the glory of the Egyptian civilization has been well documented, there remains much to be uncovered and understood about its sophisticated culture. With the unearthing of each new artifact, our knowledge grows, not only about an ancient society, but its effect upon modern man as well. Only now are we beginning to appreciate how Tut's premature death may have had a significant impact on the development of the belief in one God.